Hey guys, Steve here. I'm coming at you with some big UFC news. Just came out last night. Ilia Topuria has vacated the featherweight title. This came as a bit of a surprise. I don't think people thought he was going to vacate it. Him fighting Islam was a big thing. But I guess, he claims that he's cemented his legacy in the featherweight division. He's knocked out two of arguably the GOATs of the division in Alex Volkanovski and Max Holloway. And I guess he thinks his body just can't handle the weight cut. I don't know. I don't blame him. I respect this. It's kind of true. Like, he's knocked out the two GOATs. Like, maybe he just doesn't see himself being challenged enough. He wants to go after that pound for pound fighter of the world status that Islam holds right now. Makes sense. Respected. That's cool. I also think going back to the Islam Makhachev Arman fight. Arman, when he fell out of that fight, Arman Tsarukian. And then you hear Dana White kind of saying that Arman's got to go back to the rankings and fight his way back up. And that was kind of weird to say it here. But now it kind of makes sense. They probably had Ilia Topuria already lined up to fight the winner of that. With him vacating title, this kind of all makes sense. All right, so with that announcement comes big news. UFC 314 Miami. Main event, fighting now for the vacant featherweight championship, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. If you look at it, I think this fight makes the most sense for the division. People thought the next fight for that featherweight title was going to be Volk for the rematch against Topuria. And, if it wasn't going to be Volk, then a lot of people were looking at Lopez as the next challenger just because he's looked so kind of impressive in his climb through the division. Volk probably would have rather get his belt redeeming his loss to Topuria. But Lopez is legit, and it's a good checkmark fight on his legacy. For Lopez, I'm happy to see him get this fight. I think this is kind of shows, the reward for putting on exciting fights, looking impressive, being that guy the fans want to see fight. Being a company man, he took that Dan Ige fight on less than 24 hours notice. I don't know, was it even 12 hours notice? And gets the title fight. And I think it's to do with those things. You got guys like Movsar Ivlov, or if you know what I'm talking about, he's 19-0, 9-0 in the UFC. He's got to win over Diego Lopez. And he's probably sitting there like, what the hell? Where's my title shot? Well, man, you're not exciting. Fans don't want to see you fight. You haven't looked impressive in your fights. You got to be more exciting. And, I think those guys, when you're not putting on exciting performances, you're not a draw for the UFC to throw on like a pay-per-view card. You got to grind out, 10 wins in a row kind of to get your title shot, kind of like Bilal Muhammad did. Anyways, moving on. Also announced 5-round co-main event for UFC 314. This one came as a surprise to me personally, probably a surprise to quite a few people, and that's going to be Iron Michael Chandler taking on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. I love seeing Pimblett get a big name, a higher-ranked opponent, a good test for him. I think Paddy in this fight really shows what an impressive win can do for your career. He had that dominance performance against King Green, and I think that just skyrocketed him up into the rankings. If he just had a grindy, unanimous decision, split decision win over Green, then he'd probably be looking at fighting like a top 10 to 15 ranked fighter maybe. But he's taking on Michael Chandler. With a win over Mike, this does get Paddy's name more in the talk for a title contention, like a title run anyways. And for Mike, man, I don't know, this is kind of a dangerous fight for Mike. I think he was in the position he had to take a dangerous fight. And dangerous, I mean, he's ranked 7th right now with a record of 2-4 in the UFC. And I think with a loss here, man, that could drop him, out of top 10, maybe even out of top 15. I don't know. It's going to drop him huge. All his losses, are against big names, high-ranked opponents. This wouldn't be, that case if he lost that. Regardless, exciting fight for fans. Stoked that they put this on a 5-round fight. I think that's going to be tough for Paddy. If Michael could drag him out, that's scary for Paddy. But regardless, wicked fight. All right, moving on. One more fight that was actually announced in the UFC 314 card that was really exciting that I wanted to just touch base on. Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull Pitbull coming over from Bellator. This is a highly anticipated debut for this guy. I think he talked about coming into the UFC for a bit, and I'm pumped for him to make his stamp in the UFC. People might not know him, but he multiple-time champion Bellator. I'm not really sure how many, but he props CR Rodriguez taking this guy on. He's not ranked right because this is a debut, but I think that's a good matchup, and I'm excited for people to see Pitbull in the UFC. All right, moving on. UFC 315, Montreal, Canada. Main event announced. Belal, remember the name, Muhammad is defending his welterweight championship bout against Jack Della Maddalena? What happened to Shavkat Rakhmonov? What? It's okay, guys. He didn't get robbed. Shavkat was offered this fight. Turns out he's injured right now. He's not going to be ready for May. So they're like, let's not hold up the division. We'll move it on. Jack Della Maddalena kind of stars line for him. He gets the title shot here. And Shavkat will fight the winner. Jack Maddalena, he's on a 7-fight win streak in the UFC. 5 of those with performance of the night bonuses. I don't think there's an argument for him getting the shot. Leon Edwards, I guess probably would have been the argument. A rematch makes sense against Muhammad, but Leon's already booked up to fight Sean Brady in London. Leon probably wants to fight at home. I think he's going to be okay with sitting this one out. Good for Jack. The problem is I'm really just not excited for this fight. I think Jack has shown a little bit of weaknesses to grapplers, especially in his last fight against Gilbert Burns. Gilbert kind of dominated the whole fight with grappling. Then Jack comes back with that massive knee, huge comeback knockout victory for him. And good for him because guess what? It got him into the title shot here. But realistically, I think Bilal's not going to attempt to stand up and strike at all with Jack. I think it's just going to grind him up against the cage, take him down a bit. Maybe a little bit of ground and pound that's probably not really going to hurt him that much, and grind out a unanimous decision victory and probably bore Montreal to sleep. Co-main UFC 315 also announced another title fight, women's flyweight division. Valentina Bullet Shevchenko is taking on Manon Fiorot. That name's really hard for me. I think everyone knew this fight was coming. Fiorot fought Blanchfield in her last fight. I think that fight really showed that Fiorot is a true martial artist and a legit competitor in this division. And I think she's going to be Shevchenko's one of her hardest fights in a while. Shevchenko did have some hard fights with Amanda Nunes and Talio Santos. Arguably did beat her. In my opinion, I think Santos beat her. But regardless, Shevchenko's the champ. She's been dominant for a while. I know the Alexa Grasso slip up, but she redeemed herself there. And you know what? This blows my mind how there's still continuously more girls in the division that come up to fight Shevchenko. And you're like, oh yeah, she hasn't fought her. Oh yeah, she hasn't fought her. But regardless, she's been dominant champ. I think this is going to be a tough fight. I think this, I think Shevchenko is going to come prepared. I think she's going to have a good game plan, and her vet status might really pull through on this one. Interesting enough, another banger on this card, also a fight in the women's flyweight division. Alexa Grasso will be taking on Natalia Silva. Now, did UFC purposely plan to have another big women's flyweight fight on this card? Maybe thinking, oh yeah, we'll have the winners fight each other. Maybe, possibly, kind of looks like it. The sad news for me as a fellow Canadian and other Canadians, where's my girl Jasmine Jasukevicius at? I probably wish I pronounced her last name better there. You guys know who I'm talking about. Jasmine Jasukevicius. I was really hoping was going to get a big name fight on this card. I thought Alexa Grasso or Silva would have been it. Maybe a Rose Namajunas, but are they really going to throw a third women's flyweight bout on this card? I don't think so. So that's unfortunate, but is what it is, guys. Okay, those are the latest and greatest fights announcements for UFC Miami 314 and UFC Montreal 315. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.